Well, it's a beautiful but somewhat hazy day here in the Okanagan. I've seen a few boats or jet skis down on the lake, but it's a perfect day for a drive. Well, good morning everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Dan, and welcome back to the adventure. Today's the day that I'm going to bring up the topic of getting ripped off by mechanics, and how you can avoid getting it done to yourself or your loved ones, just by asking a couple of simple questions. And most of that involves a little bit of common sense as well. So let's buckle up, go for a little drive, and let's have a chat about the basic maintenance of vehicles and what is really required and what might not be required. Well, this little booklet right here is probably the most important source of information for your vehicle. Every one of them is going to be a little different, but everything you need to know about the car you drive will be in here. Well, here's something that I didn't even know, mostly because I've never used an automatic car wash with this vehicle, but you're supposed to put it in a specific setting if you run it through an automatic car wash. And it's 2 full pages on how to do that and how to put it back. And with so many modern vehicles, the service information is like a 3-page little booklet, because all the info is part of an app or on their website or all that sort of nonsense. So you have to do a little more digging than just grabbing a book. And so often is the case, when you buy a special version of a normal car, much like I've done, you get one of these. It's an update or supplement booklet. Now this is specific to the AMG models of the GLA and GLB, and it's mostly to do with just the various settings that are different. Very useful information to have if you're going to be using any of these features. This is how I learned about the track pace, so the telemetry and the drag racing features that are all built into the car. Now, there's a couple things that every vehicle owner should know. 1, how to open the hood. 2, where your washer fluid goes. Generally, it's a blue cap. You just open and fill it up. Mine's a little low. Another things, well, my vehicle has 2 places to put antifreeze or coolant. This is the primary system. This is going to cool the engine and all that stuff. And then this one is a secondary system for a liquid to air intercooler system for the turbocharger. Basically, the hot air that this generates goes through that dealie, and then at the front, there'll be a heat exchanger back there somewhere that keeps the temperatures in check. Now, on a lot of vehicles, there's plastic covering everything. So in this case, under the dust, there's a little symbol for the battery, which leads me to believe there's a battery in there. I happen to know that's where it actually is, but a lot of vehicles, they put it in the trunk, and then they give you one of these, which is where you jump start the car if the battery dies. So positive there. Usually there's a big arrow for the ground, but in this case, it'll be the engine hook down there. Now, if you live in a hot climate, or one that goes from very hot to very cold, you're going to have a wonderful air conditioning system, kind of like this. Be some hoses that go places and things that do stuff. But the simple explanation of an air conditioning system is that you have a compressor that compresses a gas. That gas then flows through the system. It experiences a restriction through a valve in this case, which then causes the gas to turn into a liquid. And in that changing of a state, it actually pulls heat from the environment. So you end up with cold air available if you blow a fan over it. So that's a very simple way of explaining air conditioning. And when it comes to repairing an air conditioning system, there really is no such thing as just topping it up. If it's gone low, there's a leak. And much like the air conditioning system being sealed, and thus if it goes low, there's a leak, meaning there's a problem, your brakes. This cap here. You should never, ever, ever top that up, because if you have to top it up, the fluid has gone somewhere, meaning you have a problem with your brakes. So get it looked at and get it fixed. Now, my biggest complaint about this car is that ever since I did an oil change, I get kind of a mist of oil from the oil cap, and I can't seem to get it to stay clean. So kind of annoying, but I can live with it. With the exception of a couple of filters and a few fluids, most of the maintenance is going to require a mechanic shop. Now, that could be the dealership itself that you bought the car from. I tend to believe that they know what they're doing. They just charge a little more than they should. Or you could find yourself a good, trustworthy aftermarket shop. And where I am right now, you're not going to see any. But in Kelowna, you can hardly walk 2 blocks without passing a handful of secondary shops. Now, when you drop your car off for service or repairs or maintenance or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter where you drop it off. They better be asking you a bunch of questions. And if it's just for an oil change, they're going to try to sell you a few things that you may not think you need, or that maybe sound like just an upsell. Now, there are tons of additive products and little services that various shops offer for a price. Now, some of those you definitely should get done. Some of them, maybe not. Now, when you read through your owner's manual, it's going to say things along the lines of, the manufacturer does not advise putting additives in the engine or fuel other than those specified by the manufacturer. What that basically means is, they admit that additives aren't going to hurt things, but they want you to buy theirs so they can charge more. So when it comes to the additive packs that you can get, just do a little bit of research, make sure it complies with your manufacturer's specs, and doesn't hurt your warranty. With modern vehicles, the diagnostic to get to the solution required of a problem tends to be the biggest cost. And it's primarily due to the fact that there are so many different computers in every different brand of vehicle that require different tools to be able to talk to. So your basic mechanic shop has to have tens of thousands of dollars worth of computers just to tell you you need a new sensor. So somebody has to pay for that, and as a business, they're going to pass it along to the consumer. Not necessarily the end of the world. Now, every vehicle is going to have a specific or recommended interval to change out the various fluids and components. So in this car, Mercedes tells you you're good for like 20,000 kilometers between oil changes. I never, ever go that far. The most would be 10,000 kilometers, and that has more to do with how I drive. Other things that Mercedes say to do, and I found this information in my owner's manual, is rear differential fluid is supposed to be changed every 30,000 kilometers or so. The transmission fluid should be changed every 60,000, and the antifreeze should be flushed out every 3 to 4 years. Now that's a time base because mileage really doesn't matter. It's more about how long it's in use. And then I know this because I've worked in the industry. You should get your brake fluid flushed out every 48,000 or 3 years, and that's more of a safety precaution. And when you get out and you drive quite as much as I do through the rough roads and side roads or whatever you want to call the paths that I take, you should get your tires checked over pretty regularly. So I've just recently rotated my tires, and probably in the springtime, I'm going to get an alignment done. Even though the car has almost no mileage, and the tires are wearing fantastically even, well, the roads out here are pretty rough, and they're not very even. So when I go for a long road trip, I want to know that my wheels are pointing in a straight line. So that's something that, even if I don't have any concerns, I get it checked and adjusted every 2 years. Now, with a vehicle like this, that does cost about $200, and that's one of the least expensive repairs you can do on this car. So the easiest way to keep yourself from getting ripped off by a shady mechanic is just to know what your car actually is needing for maintenance. Now, when it comes to the repair side of things, that's a totally different story because every situation will be different. But I'm talking maintenance. The stuff that you have to do on every vehicle just to be able to keep driving it. It is possible to stay on a very small budget and maintain your vehicle correctly. It's also just as easy to not maintain a vehicle and end up with very expensive repairs not too far down the road. So, as I've always kind of said, as somebody who works in the automotive industry and has for the last many, many years, you need to find a shop that you trust, and you need to use parts and fluids that are trustworthy. At the very least, use stuff from a company that will put a warranty on whatever product you're using of theirs, or if you have any doubts at all about the warranty situation of a vehicle or just what it needs, take it to the dealer. Ask the questions. Don't necessarily have it done at the first shop, but definitely get the answers, find out what questions you need to be asking, and save yourself some money by taking care of your vehicle before there's a problem. And I hope this has been insightful to some of you. If you have any other questions, concerns, leave a comment below. I will address them in an upcoming video or in a short form. But I love the fact that we get so many questions here about basic things that for me I take for granted. For most people, they just don't know. So I'm here to inform you as best as I can. So have a wonderful day. Think about all the questions you want to ask me, and we will catch you on the next adventure. I'm not really a fan of the electronic dipsticks. I like to be able to pull the dipstick out and know that there's engine oil in my engine, rather than just this little bar graph that says I'm okay. Most vehicles will tell you when they want service based on preset parameters, whether that be a timer or specific values that a sensor is reading. Either way, I'm due for a service B in, about 6 months, which will get done much sooner than that based on the mileage.